Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Disco Elysium, where we were talking about choice, about everything, and the world, and philosophy, and whatnot.
The water, the light. It's as though you're seeing it for the first time. There is no recognition, only the immensity of the sea and the cold radiating from it.
Where are we?
We are where we are. I have no truer answer to give, unfortunately.
This is one thought you need to complete. Where are you?
Okay, guess if we have to do it, we have to internalize it. And we have no more space. Damn it.
Was there something else you wanted to know? I remember something about a lowdown.
This has been informative. Thank you, ma'am. I'm sure my memory-impaired partner has many more questions to ask, about even more fundamental aspects of reality.
I do.
Might I suggest not asking them all right now? Messier will be here later too, and tomorrow. Isn't that true, ma'am?
Absolutely. My commitment here is long-term.
But I want to know everything now. Won't I be lazy if I don't do it all now?
Oh, of course not. You are already diligent for getting this far, and diligent boys remember where they left off.
Do they?
Indeed. I'm always at your service.
What times are these?
These are unimportant times, Detective. You and I were born after the dust had settled. 1,000th of a second too late.
Too late for what?
For the big time.
What's the big time?
The revolution.
And what is this revolution I keep hearing
It's
about?
quite easy. Every 100 years or so, our species gets together to decide what's next, who gets shot in the head, and who gets the mineral rights. It's a real kerfuffle.
Sounds about right. Who got shot in the head?
Those would be the communists. Generally speaking, 40 million people got shot in the head during the World Revolution. But the communists, they all got shot in the head.
She's not gloating. It's a relieved celebration.
Oh, and the anarchists too. They shot them well. So well, one forgets they even existed.
She likes the totality of it.
Cunt. What? Nothing. You said he got totally shot in the head. Did the communists and the anarchists shoot back?
Did they ever? Before they got shot themselves, they shot 2 million people.
Sounds like they should have shot more people in the head then.
This does not represent the official RCM opinion.
Don't worry. Kras Mazov shot 15 million people in the head. But that was all the way over in Grad.
Anyone else got shot in the head?
Oh, lots of people. Even the king got shot in the head, or thrown beneath a horse, or drowned. Accounts differ. It was unceremonious. Just as well, he wasn't actually the king. Just the king's nephew. The real king abdicated and lived out a long and productive life as a venture capitalist in Grad.
Cowardly king.
I prefer the term risk-averse. King Guillaume was nobody's fool. He could smell a PR disaster brewing, so he got out alive, and his nephew Fricelle got shot in his place. Him and tens of thousands of his wonderfully fascist kingsmen. It was a wild time.
Who got the mineral rights?
The liberals got the mineral rights. And by mineral rights, I mean everything.
And by liberals you mean...
Liberals are usually middle-class people, Detective. Or the remaining gentry. The beneficiaries of the pre-revolutionary arrangement. Some were rich enough to stay with the Constitution, with monarchy. Big mistake. Others bet on the revolution. They were called the Ultras, or Ultra-Liberals. They fared well.
How did it win at all?
They didn't win so much as survive. We were the last ones standing when the war ended. Everyone else got shot in the head, remember?
Yeah, that about does it.
We. She's one of them. Of course.
Everyone got shot. Who was there to surrender to?
To foreign intervention. The Coalition. Those people really took the mineral rights.
Wait, you just said the minerals took everything.
The Liberals took everything that wasn't nailed to the ground. The Coalition took the ground. The ocean, the laws, and the people.
Who are the Coalition?
The Coalition of Nations. Grad, Mesk, Vesper, Messina, Oranje, and Sur-la-Clay. The armed center of the world. They landed here and ended the revolution. It was the moralist thing to do.
Fucking moralists.
There is bitterness in her voice, tempered with understanding. She is critical, but ultimately understands the cause.
Moralist?
The moralists believe in keeping everything exactly the way it is. They believe in mineral rights, and not shooting people in the head.
Ah, fucking moralists.
At least not in the same manner and volume as the others do. They are the long-standing provisional rulers of Revachol now, the coalition government. This is their zone of control. They embolden the RCM with crumbs of the same law they took. Technically speaking, you are a moralist.
You take that back.
The color of moralism is blue. The official motto of Moral Intern, or Moralist International, is a blue forget-me-not, a piece of grey sky. Unofficial. For a moment, there was hope.
Not just technically. If always picking the option that doesn't commit to anything, then hell yes, I am, and also not. I don't think I'm a moralist.
Of course. Not easy to be moderate about head shooting in your line of work.
When was this kerfuffle?
The turn of the century revolution? Don't answer it. It's a trick question.
Was it at the turn of the century?
The revolution began in '02 on the Isla of Grad, though by the end, nearly the whole world had gotten involved.
Who started it?
It wasn't a who, but a what. A pandemic of Zarat, a particularly virulent prion disease, which the authorities in Grad proved unable to contain. Then Mazov came along and overthrew the government.
Oof. Prions. Yeah, prions are bad. Nasty. Fucking nasty.
It made people overthrow their governments.
The prions made the people overthrow the government? Really?
Of course not. It was a highly infectious microorganism that destroyed brain tissue. The actual causes of the revolution were material. The pandemic only provided the spark.
It was a funny time in history. They discovered transistors and rock music, but they didn't know anything about prions. Nobody did.
Where did the spread from there?
From Revachol and Grad? Not far. The world managed to cauterize itself. Mazov's government was overthrown in '08, and the coalition crushed the Revachol commune 2 years later. It was the end.
And what came next?
Why? You and I, officer. Our lives in the zone of control.
Something tells you her life and yours are not that similar.
Yeah, I can't put my finger on it. Our lives are not the same.
No doubt. But we share the same time and position on the planet's crust. That counts for more than you think.
And what is the zone of control?
A city-state divided into free market zones under the everlasting interregnum of the Coalition of Nations. And you, of course, the citizens' militia.
The clatter of typewriter keys fills the main hall of the reappropriated silk mill. Precinct 41. Chad Tilbrook presses enter. Outside, Officer Elfboy Williams slams the door of an armored motor carriage.
The zone of control is the third incarnation of Revachol, after the failure of the suzerain and the commune.
And what happened to the rest of the world?
Modernity. They developed the marvels of the inter-estellary communication, telematic milieus, radiation, colored plastics. Meanwhile, in Revachol West, the aftermath continues for the 5th decade.
51 minus 8 equals 43.
Wait, you're saying it's been like this for 43 years?
Time flies.
What have you been doing all that time?
The 20s saw a decade of urban war, west of the river leveled, offshore platforms in flames. Still, it's regarded as an improvement on what came before. 08 to 19 was simply hell.
And after that?
The 30s? Things settled down in the 30s. Revachol East transformed itself into the world's largest tax haven, with the international community's blessing. For the first time in a long time, it seemed like things were going somewhere.
All that untaxed income must have fueled the new. That can only mean one thing.
That's when they discovered disco.
Yes, and quantitative easing. It was a market mirage, unfortunately. The 40s dispelled it. An Isla-wide hangover, you might say. So, here we are. Welcome to reality, baby.
From the looks of it, the 50s haven't been much better for the zone of control. You can see it in her eyes. Days slipping away.
You don't seem to be so thrilled.
I've no right to be dissatisfied. This shirt is Barbara Muscova, this raincoat is impervious to rain and is guaranteed for 100 years. My daughters will wear it. No, it's just... we could have had so much more. Every one of us. If only we'd played it right.
And what would you have done differently?
Good question. What would you have done differently?
Shot more people in the head.
No, her first.
Would have killed more. 400 million. I asked you, who are you in all this?
And I asked you, past-less detective of the Citizens Militia, what insight has acute encephalopathy given to you?
I sought a medical solution.
A cold creeps up your spine, reaching its tendrils up your neck, toward the back of your head.
So a quarter of humanity simply lost their minds. And how would you stop a prion, a complex folding protein, unlife, with the technology 50 years ago?
Hygiene, modest social care, perhaps a little research. Liquidate the pre-infested dogs. That's also a good way. Cleansing artillery fire. No, definitely not that. Privatize healthcare and the work ethic. Fuck you. Yeah, hygiene, modest social care, a little research.
The wind stops, and for a moment, there's silence. The charge dissipates into the dark water. All is quiet on the Martinez Inlet.
There is peace in the heart.
Good hygiene. Really. A very moderate solution to an extreme problem. It's those sort of half measures that doomed the authorities in Grad. When they failed to step up, Marzov and his party stepped in. In this particular case, maybe a more robust state response might have been appropriate.
Opinions expressed here do not reflect the official position of the RCM.
And
Come on,
what
Kim.
is your official position, Lieutenant?
My position, ma'am? My parents got ripped to shreds in the revolution. I would have gone the same way. I was saved by being 2 years old. That's my position. The abattoir.
Understandable.
That's enough about the times.
They are what they are. Who knows? An afterbloom may yet come. Anyway, enough sentimentality. Is there anything else you want to know?
Not so fast. Who is she in all this? Ask her who she is. She owes you an answer.
First, let's go with the esprit de corps.
6 kilometers southwest in the Valley of Dogs. Junior Officer Chad Tilbrook takes aim at a rabid black dog licking its wounds in the grass.
Leave the fucking dog alone, you cunt.
To his left, his partner, Emil Mullins, whispers, "You heard what happened to Tequila Sunset in Martinez?" "Yes, he lost his mind," Tilbrook answers, fingers on the trigger. "Don't worry, Emil." He pulls it out slowly. Slowly now. He'll find it again. We always do.
What am I?
You? You're an officer of the RCM.
The Revachol Citizens Militia?
Preciso mundo.
And what is the Revachol Citizens Militia?
Nothing more nor less than the de facto law enforcement body of post-revolutionary Revachol, Detective.
Yes, we are the Revachol Citizens Militia.
He's being sarcastic.
Are we? You said de facto.
Yes, that means not de jure. The RCM acts in what is poetically called the twilight of international law, both at the behest of the coalition government and to its chagrin.
And what... That's it for the who I am part then. What do you mean?
The RCM's responsibilities are defined by the Emergency, Wayfarer and Aliments Acts, 3 pieces of legislation keeping the city in a, let's be honest, laissez-faire stasis to the benefit of foreign capital.
All 3 are good to know when we are out policing.
So I'm basically a lackey of capital?
There's nothing basic about your role, Detective. It's true that the RCM keeps everything the way our seemingly permanent provisional rulers like it. Yet, on the other hand, I know these people. I deal with them daily. Let me tell you, dear, they are not fans of you.
Why?
The post-revolutionary decade was a disaster for the coalition government. Revachol in the 20s was hell, especially on the west side of the river. Gang warfare, a botched privatization scheme, a nuclear pile meltdown.
That doesn't sound great.
They called it the international zone because no nation wanted to claim responsibility. The RCM restored peace where the coalition failed. A true blue citizens' initiative. They will never forgive you.
That's somewhat of an exaggeration. In reality, ours is a mutually beneficial arrangement. Revacholians get to keep the peace in Revachol, and the coalition doesn't have to worry about it. Anyway, sorry to intrude. Please continue.
Yes, Lieutenant. Permit me to conclude with this. Who you are, to me, is the police. The only legitimate law enforcement authority in Revachol.
Thank you, ma'am. Say nothing.
And if those authorities drink so hard they need help recalling the basic terms of reality, well, I'm here to help.
I'm glad. What was the RCM again?
Nothing more nor less than the de facto law.
Yes,
He's being sarcastic.
Are we?
we are.
Yes, that means not. Permit me to conclude with this. And if
Okay,
those authorities drink so hard they need help
Wish there
recalling
was a
the
way to
basic
skip repeated
terms
dialogue.
of reality, well, I am here to help.
I want to know what you are.
She won't maneuver her way out of this one.
What are you?
I am the vilest of the vile. A traitor, a devourer of nations and infants. I am an ultra.
She raises the corner of her mouth, smirking, revealing a canine.
A liberal! Dios mío, a liberal!
Yes. I am the nether creature of the Forbidden Swamp. I pushed the king under a shit wagon and betrayed the revolution. My kind surrendered the nation to financial colonists. I can see you thought we'd gone extinct. After all, no sane person identifies as an ultra-liberal anymore. Not in broad daylight. You're a centrist at heart. A real moralist, no? Tell me, now that I've uncoiled myself, do you find me frightening?
In her green eyes, you see a mixture of truth and self-satire. Decades of guilt and pride.
You're a monster.
That's a pity. I hope we can remain collegial despite it. Remember, we were partners, whether you like to admit it or not. There's blood on many hands, I assure you. When the dust settled, the Liberals were the only ones left to clean up the mess. By virtue of their survival, they were handed enormous power to shape the future. This was all our last generation managed.
Would you have done something differently?
With due respect to our overlords, the eternal caretaker government that keeps Martinez a monument to the efficacy of its artillery.
While a gentle wind sweeps the streets in the rebuilt east, light drizzle washing it clean, lights go up and motor carriages circulate the tracks.
I would not have relinquished sovereignty to the Coalition. Not here in Martinez, and not in the Stella Maris or Delta Beachheads either. If not for my own sake.
She realizes her small, cold fists are clenched. She loosens them.
Then for my daughters. We had an obligation to defend our sovereignty. We should have burned the whole Isola down rather than let them have it.
Dark orange flames reflect in her green eyes. An oil fire on the ocean.
So you're a patriot.
Yes, I suppose I am. But I wouldn't be a patriot anywhere but here.
Seditious talk, man.
You're a smart woman.
Perhaps. My intellectual vanity will be my undoing.
You're no dummy yourself.
Intellectual vanity will be my undoing. So am I.
A smart boy getting smarter, one basic term of reality at a time.
You have daughters?
Yes. Whatever else I am, I'm also a mother and a wife. Now, shall we return to reality?
What is this?
A bird? A sphenicid? A flightless bird of the polar regions?
Keep
Some
guessing.
sort of krill hunter? No, wait. You're an ancient ruin. A symbol of hubris and decay. Half submerged in some salty sea.
Saying I'm ruined?
Of course you're not, my dear. I'm just terrible at guessing games.
But what is this place here?
Ah. This is the pier of Rue de Saint-Ghislain, 33A, where the tenants have been kind enough to rent me a slot. Or two. A pre-revolutionary
What's the
tenement.
Rue de Saint-Ghislain?
Old buildings are called tenements, you see. And new buildings, bâtiments. After les bâtiments nouveaux. But 33A and 33B are not nouveaux. They're old. This one used to be 8 to 10 stories tall. A real high-rise by the standards of the last century. Built to mirror the skyscrapers across the bay in the Delta. That was before the war, of course.
Who lived in them?
Mostly the urban middle class, I believe. This was once primo real estate, before the cannons lopped 4 or 5 stories off. Splat, splat. Wonderful.
What is that?
The girl in the old lady rags
Yep.
looks like a sullen and rebellious member of a teen infraculture.
Infraculture?
Yes, you and I belong to the supraculture. We're common, the herd. The music on the radio, the food in the chain restaurant, those are all too popular for the girl in the old lady rags. She prefers a fantasy world, an infraculture with its own dress code and vernacular. It is an illusion, I'm afraid. There is no refuge from the supraculture.
Okay, now explain the same thing but to a child. No, I understand. Make it more complicated somehow.
I can't. That's how simple it is. One may dye their hair green and wear their grandma's coat, all they want. Capital has the ability to subsume all critiques into itself. Even those who would critique capital end up reinforcing it instead.
Ah, fuck. This quote. This fucking quote hurts.
All right. What next?
Suddenly, you're not so sure you're part of the supraculture.
I might be part of an infraculture.
And what would that be?
Disco.
I can see that, yes. I dabbled in those dark arts myself, not so long ago. I assure you, it was a thoroughly supracultural phenomenon. All permeating. Downright mandatory. Nothing infra about disco, baby.
You're disco?
Those days are long behind me. And even in the early 30s, I would say I was more of a new girl. Disco was a minor, but still enjoyable facet of the whole thing for me.
The new?
The new. A cultural era. And the name of the decade it ravished, the 30s. It came out of post-revolutionary Revachol. It was ultra-liberal. It involved lots of partying, as you might imagine, and champagne-coloured everything. By the looks of it, that would have been when you came of age. Now.
It's not like anything I'd be into. I'm straight at. No, I'm not. Got it. Sounds fun. Can't remember a single thing.
Wasn't it Guillaume Le Million who said, if you can remember the new, you weren't there?
Yeah, well, just think about that guy. What happened to him?
Ah, yes. This is not very central to reality, is it?
I still want to know.
I can't be 100% sure, but I believe he died due to complications from venereal disease.
Which one?
All of them.
Seriously? Yeah. Hey, he has VD. Which one? All of them. Didn't vanish in a puff of stardust?
I'm afraid no. But then again, one can't be entirely sure. It's all part of his mystique. Ask someone else and you may get a more champagne-coloured take. Anyway, what other basic facets of reality should we discuss?
That's all for now. I'm gonna leave this conceptualization check for a later time.
Glad to have been of assistance. The little that I know. Anything else?
No, first I wanna check my skills. Do I wanna up my skills or wanna... Yeah, I'm gonna forget advanced race theory, please. And I'm guessing I'm gonna leave that empty for now. Yeah, fine. I'm gonna leave it empty for now.
You're back. Good. What can I help you with?
Spoke to the lottery man?
Yes, my eyes on the harbour have sent word to that effect. What have you discovered?
Yeah, where exactly were these eyes located?
It doesn't really matter. And I do apologize for the surveillance. Wild Pines can't afford to be blind at a time like this.
One of the tall buildings overlooking the roundabout, most likely. That would give them a read on the entire quarter.
In any case, it's a relief to know someone has looked into it. If I may ask, will there be an official investigation? I assume you discovered there is an operation.
She's trying to conceal her excitement, but the slight glimmer in her green eyes tells you otherwise. The lieutenant is about to interject. Cut him off. This decision should be yours.
Let Kim handle it.
If there is an investigation, it will be part of an ongoing operation, subject to confidentiality. I'm sure you understand.
Of course, detectives. In any case, you've held up your end of our arrangement. I trust you with the rest. Now it's my turn. I wouldn't normally break protocol like this, but the situation demands it. If you don't solve this murder, I'm afraid we may have a bloodbath on our hands.
Yeah, I've heard about a connection, but I need your testimony.
I have an indirect role to play, I'm sad to say. My employer experienced a momentary lapse of faith in me. In that moment, they elected to deploy a private military contractor as an insurance measure. They called it my security detail.
Momentary lapse of faith.
They were dispatched after I relayed the union's initial offer.
Every worker...
A member of the board. I tried to convince my employer it was simply an opening gambit, like you suggested, or a joke even. They did not appreciate the humor.
You need a security detail?
Absolutely not. These mercenaries are muscle, pure and simple. They are meant to intimidate the Union into surrendering.
Who are they, exactly?
Crenel, an Oranese military company. As far as I know, 3 arrived in Martinez. They report to me sporadically, but they do not answer to me. To be frank, our relationship is deteriorating.
Big guy stirring up shit. He's one of them, right?
They wear ceramic armor, have semi-automatic weapons, and years of combat experience. They also have trauma and stressor disorder, and no idea how to conduct themselves in an urban civilian environment.
So, what happened?
The story is, one of them, the Colonel, I don't know his real name, sexually assaulted a local woman while he was drunk and separated from his unit. This allowed some of the more militant Union members to subdue him. He was taken out behind the whirling in rags and lynched last Sunday night.
I'm not saying he had it coming, but...
Nothing. Mr. Clare refuses to let me into the harbor. I have not been able to discuss this matter with anyone there. The remaining 2 Crenel contractors carry out their orders, for now.
For now?
It's a smokescreen. In secret, they are conducting an independent military tribunal into the lynching. Once this investigation is concluded, executions will follow.
What is the nature of this so-called investigation?
Whether to execute one, some, or all of the Union militants.
Huh. That doesn't sound very nice. But that will be it for this episode. Thank you all very much for watching. As always, I have been Pope. Please do like, comment, subscribe, do all of the things that make the algorithm happy. I will see you all next time.